Hello, Year 11. I hope you're all doing well. That was like the film Clockwise that you've probably never seen. I've literally just got back from Hazelwick and here I am. Ta-da! Nice to see you all. Please do say hello in the comments. It'd be great to welcome you if you are there. I can't see how many of you are there at the moment, but I'm sure in a moment that will become apparent. Let me clear all of these screens. So it's system threat today. And have I put system threats up here? No, I haven't. Gosh, it's so poor, isn't it? Networks, protocols, and layers. That is not what it is. So I'm going to just go in and I'm going to... Can I get rid of that? I can. Just bear with me a second, because I hate to have the wrong thing up there. Let's get this. System threats. There we go. All right, we're all good to go. Boom. Look at that, system threats, even in the right place. Ta-da, wobbling around, boom. Okay, so let's go into this. System threats, this is an area where you can earn loads and loads of marks. We've done quite a lot of work on this, so I'm hoping that we can nail this quite quickly. I plan for this to last about half an hour, and I'm going to breeze through it. If you have any questions, please do just register that in the comments, and I will I'll do my best to get to you and to answer your questions, okay? So let's do that. Okay, so system threats. And of course, we're really focusing on two different things here. First of all, what are the threats, number one? And number two, how can you prevent them or mitigate against them? And I guess that's something worth talking about. So we've got three of you in. Hi, guys. Do please say hello. What are the threats? How can we prevent them altogether, or how can we limit their impact? And that's the mitigation part, okay? So that's what we need to figure out here. Slow mode is off. 4 in. Thank you for coming. All right, what's it all about? So this is 1.4. We've covered everything else so far. So we're on to 1.4. That is network security. So these are the threats that you need to understand. And I guess the first thing is understanding how that threat operates. Hi, Dan. How are you? Let me try and get you up here. Hi, Dan. Thank you for coming. That is very colourful. Goblin. Okay. Hi, Insum9x, thank you for coming as well, so welcome. And don't forget, I am here to help you, so if there's anything that I'm going through that makes no sense, just ask me. I'm happy to. And hi, Umesh, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. This one, again, they're likely to have one big question on this or a series of smaller sort of 2-on-1 markers, but they often do a whole grade boundaries worth of sort of work of marks on this. But of course, they can't cover everything. But I'm hoping this one comes up because I think this is a nice, easy topic. Excuse me. Okay, so what you need to know. So going back, the threats we've got to worry about are malware, social engineering, brute force, DDoS, data interception and theft. They don't do much about theft because data interception is theft fundamentally. And then SQL injection. We'll talk a bit about how those come about and how you can prevent them. So that's sort of what we're looking at here. What are the threats and how can we limit or prevent them, okay? So what they want you to know is, what are the threats, how is the attack used, and what is the purpose of the attack? Now, they haven't done that much in the past on the purpose of the attack. Ooh, come back this way. But fundamentally, if they do ask that, the purpose of the attack is either going to be to steal data in order to be able to sell it. There's 2 marks for you to make a profit, or it could be to hold people's data to ransom. Therefore, people have to pay to get their data back. So if they're giving a 2 marker for that, think about Abby. Hi, Abby. How are you? That is a nice picture. Is that a snowy background there? Very nice. Hi, Abby. How are you doing? Like I promised today, half an hour, no more, half an hour. That will be more than enough. So yeah, what is the attack? Can you describe how it happens? Can you describe what the aim of it is? And they might ask you something about the attacker, about the hacker, and what their motives are. They've got the capacity to ask that. So 2 things. It's usually profit. It could be someone who's got a grudge against their employer. So there are various ways that you could look at that. 10-minute teach. Slightly optimistic, but I will do it in about 15, okay? So why is system security important? Well, it is important because it keeps, I guess the first thing to say is that it keeps data and programs safe, and it keeps them safe from theft and from corruption. So when they ask about what can happen to data, it can be stolen, and then you can talk about the damage that could cause. It could be reputational damage. It could be that the data gets used to perform identity theft. It could be that it is then kept and used, they use it as a ransom. Okay, so that's why it's important. And of course, because email is the primary means of communication, that is a very effective way of attacking. And of course, companies need the internet in order to carry out their business. But this slide really is just a sort of gentle intro, so let's not waste time. Now, this, I'm sure, on your screen is looking quite dazzling, but these are the areas that I'm going to whiz through today. So I'm basically going to get through this entire mind map today. That is my grand plan. I, as you know, love a good mind map. So we're going to look at cybersecurity and methods designed to protect networks, okay, and look at possible means of attacks. I told you I'm whizzing through it. It doesn't really say very much, that slide. Okay, we're going to look at malware. So malware is an umbrella term for all sorts of malicious code, and that's really the key point here. It's malicious code. It's designed to do nasty things to your system, to steal stuff, to break stuff, whatever, but it's mal. Mal in French means bad, so it's badware. It's stuff that's designed to cause damage. And you could use things like viruses, which are small programs which can cause physical harm to a system, or they can corrupt data. And you've got spyware, and with spyware, the aim is to try to gather as much information. Could you gather so a keystroke logger, for example, records the buttons you press on your keyboard, the keys you press on your keyboard, and if you can use that, you can possibly get someone's username and password, for example, their banking, and then you're in, and you can start paying money into your own account. Okay. Right, so let's jump in and look at each of these in turn. So first of all, we've got worms. Now, worms are another form of malicious code. So all of this falls under the umbrella term of malware, and we're going to look at worms first of all, okay? Now, they might ask you to differentiate between worms and viruses, but they both do something which is similar, and this is that they are self-replicating. So worms produce copies of themselves, and it doesn't require a host program. So, for example, we're going to look at viruses in a second. Very often, or significantly often, viruses are spread via an email program. So, for example, Outlook, an email client, okay, or an app. And that's how it's spread. And when you think about it, there's a logic there because, number one, it's a program you use to send people things, and it's also got everyone's addresses in it. So that's why email is very often targeted. But worms don't need to live inside a program. They can just be inside your system, okay? So how does it work? First of all, it sends copies of itself to other systems, and it consumes bandwidth. So in effect, that means that it makes your computer slower and slower and slower, and it can be used as part of a DDoS attack. They can be incredibly disruptive. The slammer worm caused billions of pounds worth of damage just by slowing everyone's computers down and making them crash. So that's what worms do, okay? The key things, though, if they ask you to say a couple of things about a worm, which they may do, is you can say, first of all, it's self-replicating and it doesn't require a host program, and it sends copies of itself to other systems. So I would say just these two here, go away and learn those, and that's all you really need to know about worms, okay? Next, we'll jump on to viruses, which are the same as a worm. They replicate. They produce copies of themselves, just like coronavirus produces copies of itself in other people, okay? And this time it replicates, and it does need, get away, stop that. It does need a host program. There we go. Let's try again. It embeds itself in the host program. So for example, it will embed itself. So you will click on you will somehow download this malicious code to your computer. You've clicked on a link on the internet, you've clicked on a link on your email, and you have inadvertently, and without being aware, you've downloaded a piece of malicious code, i.e. a virus. So that virus that you've downloaded, when you execute the host program, and say, for example, the virus is sitting inside your email client, when you double-click to open your email, it also opens the virus, which is a program. It's a piece of code, and it's designed to do horrible things to your computer. And what can it do? 2 marks here. It can corrupt data, which means it sort of spoils it. It will somehow mess it up so you can't open it, so you can't access it anymore, and it also could delete files. So it just causes havoc inside your system. So the two things you can say about what it does are these two guys here, and how it operates is that it replicates and embeds itself in a host program, and it does require a host program. And again, I'm just thinking about what you need for the exam. If you know 3 of those 4, you are absolutely done with viruses. Adware, we're all aware what adware is. Adware is those annoying pop-ups you get when you're surfing the internet. And the more that you're on sites that you shouldn't be on, say for example you're trying to watch a football match free of charge by looking at someone's dodgy stream, for example, you get a lot of adware there. And what does it do? It's quite a clever bit of program. It's quite a clever bit of code because it targets the browser history of your whatever your internet client is, whatever your browser is. So it might be Chrome or Google Chrome. Yeah, Google Chrome, for example. It will look at your history and then it will target adverts tailored based on your history, okay? I got some of this and it sent me Taylor Swift, tickets for a Taylor Swift concert. I cannot think of anything that I'd rather do less than go and watch Taylor Swift. No, I can't think of anything worse. So it got that slightly wrong. I don't know why. So maybe it didn't target my browser history, because if it had sent me Motorhead things, that might have worked. So it tends to be irritating rather than dangerous. It may crash your computer, but it's really designed to just get you to buy stuff. And how does that work? Well, if it's this affiliate links thing, when you get YouTubers advertising, I don't know, hand lotion, for example, and they say click on this link to buy it. When you click on that link, it will give the YouTuber some kind of payment as well. They'll get like a small payment for each person who uses that link. Affiliate links. So that's how this would work, is that if they get you to click on that link, then they will get some money from it. They get a kickback from that sale. They get a bit of commission from it. Okay, so that's how that would work. Okay, adware. And then we've got ransomware. So ransomware, again, is malicious code. It could be a virus. It probably would be a virus, actually. And this works in this way. It infects your system in the way that any virus would do, except this one has the capacity to lock or encrypt files. Lock means you can't access it. Encrypt means you need a code to be able to access it. So it amounts to the same thing, okay? And it demands that you make a payment. So they will ask for £500,000 payment in order to unlock your files. And what tends to happen is, if you actually paid the 500 grand, you still wouldn't get your files back. But you find out that, and then you're 500 grand poorer. What's quite scary is that ransomware attacks have taken place on some police departments in the States. So they've literally locked all of their data. So all of the people in witness protection programs, all of the people who are in prison, all of their sort of police computer stuff, it just gets locked. Now, you know that each state is kind of its own country within the USA? Not exactly, but you know what I mean. So it can be hugely damaging and embarrassing. And if you pay it, even then you might not get your money back. So that's the worrying thing about ransomware. Okay, so let's look at mitigation. What can you do to prevent all of this nasty malware? Well, easy peasy, you install anti-malware software. Simple as that, okay? And part of that is that you keep your virus definitions up to date. So let me explain that really quickly to you. If you were to buy Norton or to buy McAfee or any of these anti-malware programs, you install it on your computer. And the way that it works is that every day, the companies that make this software, they are looking for viruses. When they find a virus, they look at its signature, how many kilobytes is the file, what's the name of the file, how does it operate, etc., etc. And from that, they draw out something called a virus definition, which is the things that the anti-malware software on your computer has to look for. So when it's looking at files you want to download, if you keep the virus definitions up to date, so every time you go online, that's why you pay it as a subscription, so it downloads the new virus definitions as they come out. It compares the virus definition on your computer to the code that you're looking at, and it goes, no, we can't have that. So therefore, that's a way of stopping it. And then it will either delete it or it will quarantine it and allow you to then decide what you want to do with it, okay? But it will stop it infecting your computer, basically. That's one of the things that it can do. So one of the ways you can also stop it is to ban USB flash drives. If you remember, the USB flash drives don't work on the school computers because people were bringing in, because people were just bringing in flash drives from home, and it was a really, really easy way to infect a system. People weren't doing it on purpose, but say, for example, that game that kids would try and play. Do you remember Doom from back in the day, where you can? It's just a basic first-person shooter, but it's a it's a sort of battle royale game, and that would always come bundled with some kind of virus. So you can do that. The other thing you can do, which we do in school, is to ban or limit access to certain websites. In other words, the websites, the areas of the internet where you're more likely to find malware, and that's on all of the less pleasant stuff, which we won't go into now. Okay, the next thing is Trojan Horse. I won't draw one for you because that would be embarrassing, mainly for me. But a Trojan Horse is another example of an application that or malicious code that you download by mistake. But this time, the way it works is that the Trojan Horse appears benevolent. Benevolent means nice. So, for example, or useful. It doesn't look like it's going to be damaging. So, for example, a piece of software that you might use. So, for example, you're in a pickle because you've got a PDF and you want to turn it into a Word document so you can edit it, right? You don't want to pay for Adobe's suite of software to do it because it's about 28 quid a month. So you find something on the internet and you can download it free of charge. And it's got some adverts on it. It doesn't bother you, but it works. Woohoo! But the problem is, bundled with that program are also other sort of programs, malicious code that's designed to do damage. So a Trojan Horse doesn't reference the type of virus or worm. What it does reference is the fact that it's pretending to be something useful. So it's something that you download knowingly, but bundled within that code is something that doesn't do nice things to your computer. So this tends to be a stand-alone program. It doesn't need a host program, and it causes issues when executed. It could do all sorts of things. It could steal data. It could consume bandwidth. It could corrupt files. It could even be, it could be part of a DDoS attack. It could be a ransomware attack. It could be absolutely anything. Okay, now I'm going to breathe because the DDoS attack is probably... No, let's try again. The DDoS attack is the most difficult one to understand. I have done 27 minutes. A few more I need. We've got 6 people in. Do say hello, guys. So what happens is this. Let's assume that you are the master hacker and you want to knock over Xbox's servers, okay? So what you do first of all is that you acquire multiple computers. Now, you might do this by creating a Trojan Horse, which has got the software that you want, the malware that you want to infect computers with, and you put it out there on the internet. People download it innocently, they download the software, and it ends up that your malicious code is on, let's say, 1,000 computers, okay? So then what happens is you, as the master attacker, send out an instruction to your bots, to your computers that are infected, and they try to repeatedly access a website, and this results in a massive increase in traffic. It will also send incomplete requests, and I'm sure most of you have sat in a classroom where I've tried to confuse a child by asking them an incomplete question like, what is your? And it's always quite funny to watch the reaction. Well, it is for me anyway. So what happens is, with all of that, this confuses, for want of a better word, the web server, which is where this data is being held. And the plan here is to get in and steal data, to do a ransomware attack or to corrupt data. It could be that someone used to work for them and they got sacked, so they want to make them pay. This is what they're doing. So under all this pressure with these repeated requests, the web server will crash, and then once it's crashed, it's much easier to gain access to it, because once it's crashed, it becomes more vulnerable. So therefore, you can get in and steal whatever you need to steal. So that's the DDoS attack. You aren't necessarily going to need to explain it in that detail, but they would expect you to know it, okay? So DDoS, the plan is keeping a system busy so it can't cope with the authorized users. It bombards a website with data packets to make it crash or to prevent others from accessing it. And it can render a system absolutely useless. So what can you do to prevent a DDoS attack? Well, a firewall will help, Monitoring software will help, and penetration testing is really the one that you want to use there. So if you want one answer, it's pen testing. If you pen test and you've got a decent firewall, but you will have to say pen testing, that's the one they're looking for to test for network weaknesses, okay? So that is how you would prevent it. So make sure that you've got for each of these, you've got in your head the different attacks. We've talked about malware, we talked about viruses, we talked about Trojans, and then worms, and we talked about adware and ransomware. The mitigation for those is, of course, anti-malware. The mitigation for a DDoS attack is to do some pen testing, penetration testing, which is to test your system, to put it under pressure and see if you can gain access to it. And if you can, making changes to your system so that it can actually absorb those sorts of attacks. The next one is the man-in-the-middle attack. This is about packet sniffing, which means that, and this is when data usually is sent across a wireless network, or it could be a wide network, and the plan is to intercept sensitive data. You don't need to know about packet sniffing, but without knowing that, you can't really understand it, so don't worry too much about that. But it's where the hacker accesses the communication path and they steal data, okay? Simple as that. So once you've stolen someone's data, again, what would you do with it? It's to commit identity theft. It's to perform a ransomware attack, whatever you like, okay? It's to make money. I have made you repeat this so many times like some kind of strange sect that what do? You encrypt the data. Now, the key thing here is encrypting. What does it do? It turns plain text into ciphertext, one mark, so that it makes the data unintelligible if intercepted. I've repeated this so many times, it's ridiculous. So that's how that works, okay? That is how you are going to stop a man-in-the-middle attack. Then we get on to 6 people in, hello guys. Then we get on to the SQL attack. SQL is the language that's used to write queries for databases. So if you have a database in a shop, a query might be, what's the best-selling brand of orange juice this week? And it might say Tropicana, or it might say Co-op's own brand, right? So it's a question that you write in SQL to ask the database questions, queries, okay? So it's look up data in database. So here's how it works. If you imagine, and let me try and do some really bad drawing here. Imagine you're trying to get into a website and you've got these 2 boxes here, okay? And let me go to, can I make this work? Let's see if I can. If we go to this one, and so for example over here, this is where you put in your username, and down here, this is where you put in your password. Now what you will do as part of a man-in-the-middle attack is that you'll put in your username, which is PGT11, for example, and then in the password, you put in a password that works 1, 2, 3, 4, but then you put in an SQL query, which I'm really struggling with spelling, whatever that might be. You put in some SQL code there, and therefore you try and gain either higher level access or gain access to the entire database, all right? So for example, if you're able to see all of the users' passwords and usernames, as long as you haven't triggered any alarms when it happens, it means that you can then gain access to everyone's data. You may be able to gain access if it's got user levels. I give the example of a bank. You might be able to gain bank access to the bank software, and that will be handy, because I would award myself a loan of £200 million. I wouldn't be greedy. £199 million, and then that means that I could then put that into my account. I could close it all down, and I could go and live in the Bahamas and wait for the police to come. So that's what you could do, okay? So that's an example of how the SQL attack works. So question, I've just told you all of that. So what could you do? Well, input validation, that is the mitigation. So in other words, oh, that was a poor line. Let's try that again. Input validation. There we go. An input validation means that we talked about these fields like this, didn't we? There's our password field there, okay? So it means that you're going to, in your password field here, you are going to run a check on the data that people enter there, and you're going to strip out anything that is not a password. So you'd strip out, there'd be certain lines of code you wouldn't allow, and basically you would make it so that there would only be certain combinations of numbers and letters that could be used there, okay? So that way you can strip out all the SQL code and make sure that no one can gain high-level access to your piece of software, okay? Then we go into the easy stuff, phishing, which is social engineering. Now, phishing, this idea, it's humans as the weak point, okay, which they often are in a system. So when it comes down to a phishing example, they might trick people into clicking on a link. So, for example, your bank sends you an email. What's the input between input validation? Input validation and input sanitation. Okay, it's the differences between before and after. That's a good question. So the input validation is that before it's okay. Input validation is that it will only allow you to enter certain combinations of letters and numbers, and the input sanitation is it lets you enter it and it checks it afterwards. Okay, that's sort of that probably works. Does that make sense? So phishing seeks to acquire sensitive information through tricking people into clicking on a link and on an email. So you will get sent we get these all the time, don't we? You'll get sent a link saying your bank account. Did you access your bank account at such and such a time from I don't know, from Brighton? And you think, oh no, it wasn't me, quick, click on the link and go and reset my password. But of course you click on the link, you go in and you've got to log into the system and it looks like it's your bank you're logging into, but in fact they are stealing your data and then they can use that. It's the same idea. They would do that with a cash point, wouldn't they? When they put one of those sort of fake card readers on the front. So that's what they might do there. Okay. Farming. Now, I don't think, let me just double check. I'm so sorry to do this while you're here, but I don't think that I need to teach you farming. Let me just make sure that I'm right with this. And hang on a second, I can put this on here so you can see what I'm up to. I just thought I'd have a quick look at the GCSE Computer Science specification. Is this the guy here? I think it is. Yes, this is beginning to look horribly familiar. Crumbs, it's taking a bit of a time to load. There we go. There it is. And let's scroll down and have a look. This is my Bible that I spend far too much time looking at. We can make this a bit bigger as well. Done that. Let's have a look. So we are looking. Can I make this bigger? I could do this. Control +++. Is that going to work? No, it's not. Okay. So I'm looking down here at this. Penetration testing, anti-malware, firewalls, social, phishing. Yeah. I don't think farming is actually in there. So I don't think we need to worry about that. I'm going to do one last check because I am paranoid. Command F. I'll tell you tomorrow, but I don't think it's in there, so I'm not going to worry about farming too much. Have I just closed down my thingy? There we go. Farming. Perfect. So yeah, I don't think we need to worry about that one. I think that was in the previous specification. So social engineering. Two things that you can two things that you can implement to limit as a mitigation for this is staff training. So train your staff to recognize it. So for example, we teaching staff, we had some training on this last Tuesday in our staff meeting. So Mr. Hillier, who's the GDPR guy, he's the one that looks after data leaks. So schools have to have someone who looks after that sort of stuff because obviously we've got a lot of sensitive data. And if it goes missing, he's the guy that has to make sure that it's being handled properly. And we got some staff training on not clicking on links because they'd sent out some links to see if people clicked on it. I didn't because I don't click on things because I'm paranoid, but it's a very easy mistake to make. Or you could ban access to certain websites. So that's the way that you can mitigate against social engineering. Where are we? 59. Okay, half an hour. Brute force attacks. Brute force attacks are when criminals use a trial and error method of trying to get into someone's account. So typically, they wouldn't just try and log on and go, right, I'll try A, now I'll try B. They use an online dictionary which allows them to try all of the dictionary words that are that are in the dictionary, and to try each of those. So that's why, and the combinations of dictionary words and numbers, because that's very easy for a computer to do. It can do that relatively quickly. It can do thousands and thousands of attempts at getting in per second. So that's why when it tells you to set a password, it says, don't use regular words, don't use dictionary words, don't use your name. It can put in a name dictionary as well. So it uses an online dictionary to do that. Okay. Hello, don't crash, because that would be embarrassing. Good. The mitigation. And this is the stuff that you get asked to do whenever you set an account up. I find it, and I've actually had to, I use a password manager because I can't remember these blinking passwords, and using one password for everything is bad practice, as we know. So talk about having long passwords. So using 8 characters, a combination of uppercase and lowercase, special characters, don't use dictionary words, or denying people access after a number of tries. Most banks do this. If I don't get in the first time, it says you have 2 more attempts. And after that, you've got to make a phone call and wait for ages to talk to people. Could also use biometric access, and you could use smart card access methods, but you don't really need to worry too much about those. Just bear in mind they might ask you about physical and logical, okay? So physical is things like locked doors, or biometric access to doors, whereas logical is to do with the computer system itself, all right? So that is how a brute force attack works. You just think about the passwords that people are going to use. So quiz time. Let's do 5 minutes of quizzing and see if you guys can remember any of these. Answers, if you could, please. Let me just move this out of the way. Oh, 9 of you in. Hang on, let me move this across to here. There we go. 9 of you in. Any idea? So we've got, what is an alternative name for malicious code? Is it a virus, a malware, phishing, or adware? What is it? I'm assuming this will be fairly easy for you. Any ideas for that at all? Ooh, Umesh is coming. God, I was slow there. So we've got Imsum9x who has said B. We've got Umesh who has also said B. And I think that let us do the grand reveal. And the answer is B, of course. You are completely fabulous. Let's try this one. Let's see how you do with that. What does SQL stand for? Yeah, okay. I've just double-checked this. Let's have a look. Oh, Abby, you're absolutely spot on. And this was for IMSM9X. Input sanitation versus input validation. Input sanitation and input validation are both important techniques in web development. Input sanitation involves removing... No, so input sanitation, and the word input is the clear one there. So I was correct, but I wanted to make sure I'm giving you a better definition than the one that I gave you. Input sanitization involves removing or removing harmful characters. On the other hand, input validation involves checking user input against predefined rules. So, yeah, I was kind of... Does that make sense? Okay, we've got... I'm so sorry I was being slow there. We've got Umesh who said C. We've got Imsum9X who said C. We've got Abby who has said C. You guys are all doing incredibly well. Let me try and find the right thing to do there. You are absolutely spot on. It is C. There is a big round of applause for you all. Viruses rely on a host program, a DDoS attack, or a poorly configured firewall. What do viruses rely on? Oh, Dan was quick with that. I think so was Imsum9X. I finally got your username. And Dan, I think you are absolutely spot on. Let me give you the... there we go. You get a free ding. Let's do a couple more. DDoS attacks are... This is too easy. DDoS attacks are designed to bring down the government, a server, or a non-network computer. This is a very stupid question. Can I just give you the answer straight away? Because that's embarrassingly easy. It's clearly a server. What about this one? Brute force attacks involve. Is it A, is it B, or is it C? Brute force attacks. Now, I've got let's have a think. Insum 9X, was this for the previous one? Yeah, I think it was. So I shall go for Dan, who has said C, which is absolutely 100% correct. There's a random quote from Blade Runner, which will make no sense to you at all, but I absolutely love that film. In a DDoS attack, you were absolutely spot on, so that is good. Is that still going on, that thing? No, stop now. In a DDoS attack, many thousands of nodes may be infected by malware prior to the main attack. Is this true? In a DDoS attack, many thousands of nodes. Watch out for that word nodes. Yeah, I've just got sounds. If they do, is it true or false? Look out for that word nodes, because it can mean any device on a network could be a node. Is it A, true, or B, false? In a DDoS attack, many thousands of nodes may be infected by malware prior to the main attack. I'm aware that I get the answers through a little bit later than everyone else because it's there. Let's have a look. Yeah, you've all got this. It is true. Let's have a look. Dan said true, and Imsum9X said true, and Umesh said true as well. You guys are absolute heroes. Let's do. Okay, it's about the only sound I've got left. It's not really relevant, but anyway. What about this one? Last one. Okay. A Trojan is a way of describing how the payload is delivered rather than the payload itself. Is this true, or is this? Have I got any more exciting sounds? I don't know what I've got actually. What's here? Ooh, that was true. It is true. You absolutely got. You were fast. You can have a gong. I hope that's what you always wanted. Well, let's do one more then. That was so fast. It is true. What about? Oh, I've come to the end, guys. You've done amazingly well. No, we've done this. That isn't next time at all. That's a complete lie. That's what we have already done. So my advice to you is go away and have a look at these different. Have a look at these. Make sure that you're happy that you've got a list of all the different attacks, all the different means of attacks, and how they work, and then how you can mitigate or prevent them. You have been amazing. Well done. It is 18:07. That's 37 minutes of computer science that you have done to yourself at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. Have a lovely evening, guys. I'll see some of you tomorrow. Be good. See you next week. And I will look forward to it. See you next time.